Hello, YouTube divers. This is Water Dive 122, and I want to welcome you all to another episode of What's on the Turntable. Now, before we get into today's episode, I just want to clarify that this will be the only video I post out today. Well, then again, I usually just post one video per day, so nothing really new here. But I will be off YouTube for a couple of days, mainly due to the fact that I have a big exam coming up, and I'm going to focus on that. So you won't see um, any content from me up until my exam is over, is which my exam is tomorrow. So there's that. So I might be back to posting more videos on either this upcoming weekend or starting next week. But that's neither here nor there. So today on What's on the Turntable, we are going to be reviewing two albums from my dad's vinyl collection that belong to one of the most iconic progressive rock bands of all time. We are talking about Pink Floyd. Now, I haven't really talked now like with Van Halen, I haven't really talked about Pink Floyd that much on my channel, except several times here and there. But personally, Pink Floyd is not really one of my favorite prog rock bands, simply because I just prefer other bands. And really outside of their '70s catalog, like the albums from Atom Heart, Mother, all the way to The Wall. These are albums that I will come back to again and again. But really, outside of that, with the exception of like a few albums here and there, like Piper at the Gates of Dawn, The Endless River, or The Division Bell, for example, um, those are albums that I will come back to, but they kind of feel a little bit disjointed from one another, if that makes sense. So today we are going to be reviewing my two favorite Pink Floyd albums here today. And so let's start off with the first one we have to review. Dark Side of the Moon came out in 1973, and this is one of the best albums ever created. I mean, even if you're not a fan of Pink Floyd, you can't deny the massive success that this album had when it came out. This was a game changer when it came out. Now, I love every minute of this album. It's definitely my Pink Floyd album. It's definitely my favorite Pink Floyd album, and it's one of my favorite albums of all time. If you remember from my top 10 albums videos, of course, the inner cover here. I mean, the song "Breathe" is on this album, and it's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite Pink Floyd songs ever. I don't really think it's my favorite. Um, the song "Time" and the song "Money," all these songs um, were at least written or co-written by Roger Waters. "Money" was purely a Roger Waters song, and everyone wrote the song "Time," or at least contributed with it. And then Waters, Gilmore, and Wright all wrote the song "Breathe," which is an amazing song. And of course, the iconic logos here on the back. For some reason, these two logos are like upside down from one another, which is, in my opinion, a little bit weird. The inner sleeve is basically just like plastic, and of course the record's in here as well. But that's neither here nor there. So yeah, the inner sleeve in of its own self is pretty bland, but most inner sleeves are, so not really that big of a deal. But this is Dark Side of the Moon, one of the best albums ever made. I think it's stayed like the number one album for like 10 straight years or something like that. It was that iconic. And definitely my favorite Pink Floyd album. But this album is challenged with the next album we're going to be talking about. The Wall came out in 1979, and this is arguably up there with Dark Side of the Moon. I've even seen a lot of Pink Floyd fans have this at the top of their rankings, and I understand why. This is a great album. Great album from start to finish. Great inner art, album art right here. Usually there's a, like, the logo, the Pink Floyd, the wall, like, usually the title is right here on the front cover, but for some reason this copy doesn't have it, which is a little bit sus, you could say. Oh, whoops, I'm sorry, I had this album upside down the entire time. that's one knack I can't get about this album. Without the title on here, I can't tell if this album is either upside down or right side up, but, at least I'm facing it. This is a double album, and there's a lot of great songs on here. Comfortably Numb is on here. You have Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, which is my personal favorite Pink Floyd song. You have Mother. You have Hey You, which is one of the most iconic Pink Floyd songs of all time. And, on that note, this is one of the best concept albums ever made. I'm trying to find the track listing on here. I don't really think I can find it at this point. But yeah, if you know this album, you definitely know its strengths. This is a great album from start to finish. It's my favorite album from 1979. I mean, I made a whole video on the on Albums of the Year saga, where I talked on the 1970s episode. This album won the year for 1979 because it's just that great of an album. Although Van Halen 2 is probably the runner-up because that's also a killer album. All right, now if I had to rank these two albums based on my personal preference, well, I mean, you already know, I kind of gave it away. Number 2 is The Wall. Number 2 is The Wall. And, of course, number 1, Dark Side of the Moon. I mean, this album is just absolutely untouchable when it comes to progressive rock music. So, no duh, it's number 1. Alright, so with that said, that concludes this edition of What's on the Turntable. Thank you so much for watching, my fellow YouTube divers. This is WaterDive122 signing out, ready to dive into more fun on YouTube. Thanks for watching.